Hello, everyone. Welcome to Durrett's Take. It's that time where I go over the East region of the NCAA tournament. So let's get started with the first round game between number 1 seed Duke and 16 seed, the winner of American Mount St. Mary's. Cooper Flag should be good to play in this game, even if it doesn't. They're fine either way. If I were the Blue Devils, I'd give Cooper Flag extra rest, and they'll take care of business against either opponent. In this case, I have it being American University, so I have Duke winning easily. Next, you got 8 seed Mississippi State versus 9 seed Baylor. I thought Baylor was going to be a 10 seed, but instead they get a 9 seed. Mississippi State has not had great luck in the tournament over the last decade. However, this is not the Baylor of old, where they're really good. The Bears are still a good offensive team to a degree, although they're heavily reliant on two guys, freshman VJ Edgecombe and then Norchad Omier, to carry the load. But they are not a good defensive team, so that will help out Mississippi State. This was a little coin flip game for me, but I'm going to go with the Bulldogs to squeak out the win over the Bears. Mississippi State winning 69-68. Next, you got 5 seed Oregon versus 12 seed Liberty. Liberty is another upset trendy pick. However, because of all the big wins Oregon has had this year, and it's basically a home court advantage for them in this game because this game is in Seattle. I just think the head coach of Dana Altman for the Ducks is the difference maker. But I would not be shocked if Liberty makes this a close game since they match up very well with the Ducks, winning 73-69. Next, you got 4 seed Arizona versus 13 seed Akron. Akron is a hot team. They come into the game and ran on fire, which is why a lot of people are picking them for the upset. However, I don't expect them to get up to that since Arizona will have the best player in the game, Caleb Love, and I feel like he would carry them to a win. I don't see Caleb Love allowing this team to go home in the first round. I have Arizona winning 74-65. Next, you got 6 seed BYU versus 11 seed VCU. The good news for the Cougars is the Cougars get a de facto home game playing in Denver. And fun fact, the last time BYU won a first-round tournament game, they were playing in Denver, coincidentally, back in Jimmers last year. The problem is that VCU is one of those underrated teams where even though they haven't had a lot of big wins, they have the good metrics, and the eye test shows that they're good. This is a classic matchup of great offense versus great defense. Not to say that BYU's defense is terrible or VCU's offense is terrible, but the matchup is really BYU's offense versus VCU's defense. BYU goes 10 deep, which sometimes could be a curse, but I feel it could be beneficial in this case, especially if they try to play fast tempo and try to get VCU tired out with playing at elevation. I could see that being a factor. Also, BYU coach Kevin Young, who was an elite NBA assistant coach for years, is good at halftime adjustments, whether they win games or lose games. So assuming this game is close to the half, I think Young makes those adjustments to get a close win. I'm not confident in my pick per se, because as a BYU fan, I have my PTSD of the Cougars not winning any tournament games since 2011. So it's not something I bet my money on. But hopefully, Cougars break the losing streak there. I have them winning 70-66. Next, you got 3 seed Wisconsin versus 14 seed Montana. This will feel like home court advantage for Montana with the game being Colorado, which stinks for Wisconsin. Since the Badgers just played on Sunday, hopefully having 3 days off is enough rest time for them that they will need to have the energy to slow down a good Montana offense. I have Wisconsin winning 77-70. Again, that's one of those kind of like Kentucky and Troy, one of those like interesting 14-3 first round matchups. Next, you got 7 seed St. Mary's versus 10 seed Vanderbilt. The Gales have had a good season. They're always one of the better defenses in the country. However, I don't like them in this matchup. While having a great defense is obviously needed, you need to have a complementary offense at the least, and St. Mary's doesn't have that this year. Vanderbilt has a great offense, and they should be able to navigate a tough defense. I think the Commodores shake off the funk that they're in right now since they haven't been playing well as of recently, and they get the big win, winning 57-53. Next, we got 2 seed Alabama versus 15 seed Robert Morris. No problems there for the Crimson Tide. So now, second round in the East, Duke versus Mississippi State. I don't think this matchup will be particularly close since the Bulldogs don't have the defense. Doesn't have the defense to stop Duke, in my opinion. I have Duke winning 89-71. Next, you got 4 seed Arizona versus 5 seed Oregon. A matchup for former Pac-12 schools. They know each other very well, which makes this for an interesting battle that could come out to the wire. I think the difference maker in this game, once again, is Caleb Love of Arizona as he leads his team to their Sweet 16 appearance. I don't usually predict overtime games, but I'll be for fun. Go ahead and predict this game goes in overtime. I have Arizona winning 86-84. Next, you got 3 seed Wisconsin versus 6 seed BYU. This would be a fun offensive game to watch. John Tonji for the Badgers versus Richie Saunders for the Cougars would be good to see. If Montana can make a game with the Badgers on Thursday, then that will bode well for the Cougars because Wisconsin goes as Tonji goes. That's why at the end of the Big Ten tournament, Tonji was gashed from playing too too much, and the Badgers didn't win the Big Ten title game. Although they were close to, but they didn't. With the Badgers being at elevation, I can see where Tanji may get some tired legs if he has to play another high-scoring game twice over a 3-day span. I feel the Cougars will outscore the Badgers to get another win to make the Sweet 16 for the first time since Jimmer Fredette's last year in 2011, either winning 82-77. Next, you got 2-seed Alabama versus 10-seed Vanderbilt. When these two teams met once in the regular season, Alabama won easily at home. However, two things may be different this time around. First, I severely doubt Alabama's bench will score 52 points in this game like they did last time. That's not happening. The other thing is the health status of Grant Nelson, their big power forward, who's really good. He had 10 points and 8 rebounds in their previous matchup. If he is out, that opens up the door for Vandy to get an upset. I think in the end, though, Crimson Tide just find a way to escape with a win, even Nelson's out or limited, either winning 77-72. Now for the Sweet 16 in the East, you got Duke versus Arizona. Another rematch from earlier in the season, actually. Duke won the matchup in Durham. However, this was back when Arizona was struggling. Now, Arizona knows who they are and could put up much more of a fight. However, I just feel the Wildcats won't have an answer for Cooper Flagg, as Duke, for the second year in a row, makes the Elite Eight. I have Duke winning 84-80. And then next you got 2-seed Alabama versus 6-seed BYU. This would be a fun game. Both teams could score past 100 points, and it wouldn't surprise me. I think it'll be a game that comes down to the wire, but even if Grant Nelson for Alabama's out, I just feel they have too much offensive firepower for BYU to contain. The Cougars' death may not be able to save them in this one, either winning 99-91 against BYU. Now for the Elite Eight in the East, you got 1-seed Duke versus 2-seed Alabama. This would be a high-score game. Can Alabama make it back to the Final Four 2 years in a row? I think if they were facing a different team, maybe they could, but I feel Duke is just a bad matchup for them since Duke is deep and has multiple players that can go off, and Alabama doesn't have the defense to stop Cooper Flagg. So I think the Blue Devils get the win 89-83. So thank you very much for listening to this video. Watch my next podcast. You all have a good rest of your day.